Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are listening to us all over the world. This is Rebeccarustlee from Maybeitsmercury, teaching people how to detox from heavy metals without getting hurt. So my interview today is with Karen Kennedy, who is on round 94 of chelating with the Cutler Protocol. Karen is 59 years old and lives in Tasmania, Australia, on a farm. Karen tested high for lead on a hair test and also had the deranged mineral transport situation in the essential elements going on, which points to mercury toxicity. She was worried that she would have a hard time chelating, but says that actually it has been pretty easy so far. So, Karen, please tell us what it was about your health that made you suspect mercury toxicity and how you found out about the Cutler Protocol.
Sure. So I've always lived a very healthy lifestyle, organic food, gym, training, meditation, all the things, and still somehow wasn't all that well. There was something missing and not explained by a healthy lifestyle. And so I have a friend who actually is a Andy Cutler health practitioner, had done training with Andy and is a nutritional practitioner. And she said that was a typical profile of quite a lot of her clients. Should be really well. She kept saying people who should be well, but they just weren't.
Yeah.
So for me, not well was constant gut issues, very sensitive to different foods, EMF sensitive, and generally tired. Like she should have had a lot more vitality and energy than I did. But that's what brought me to finding the protocol and then doing the testing, and obviously that all confirmed, the heavy lead and the deranged protocols confirmed, that I had heavy metal issues, and that might explain quite a lot of just not being sick but not being well. And I think the thing the practitioner said is, without the healthy lifestyle, I would be sick.
You would have been really sick, yeah.
Load of metals. Yeah, like really ill. So I'm not as ill as I know some others are in the group, but I just wasn't well. Yeah.
Where did you think where did you get your exposure from?
The lead, my father was a welder and we renovated a lot of old houses, lots of lead paint, no idea about the risks, probably didn't mask. That's probably the simplest. I mean, there's probably other lead exposure. The mercury, assuming I have got mercury, but it's pretty clear that I do. I'm the firstborn child. My mother had a mouthful of amalgam fillings. For a while, a lot of us were eating a lot of tuna, very trendy, very cheap. And I had 2 amalgam fillings, which I had removed by a smart dentist in 2015. And I thought that was it. Like at the time, we all thought, we'll get our fillings out and we're all okay.
That'll do it. Yeah. Little did you know.
Sure, it helps. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm pretty that's probably where that came from.
So how's it been going? How you've done only about 60 rounds. That's hardly anything in this game. It's like about a year's worth of chelation. Yeah.
Yeah. Because of all my food sensitivities and the other general sensitivities, we expected that chelating was going to be fairly challenging for me. And my practitioner started me very, very low on 6, whatever the micrograms or whatever of DMSA. Start with the lead first, and we did that for 12 weeks, 10 weeks or something like that. And the first round was pretty hellish, as in.
So you really felt it, huh?
Pardon?
You really felt the chelator.
Well, yeah, I did. I I started at 6 p.m. on a Friday night, and by midnight, I could not sleep. Gut issues, running to the toilet, and I went, "Is this going to be my life for the next few years?" And so, one of the things we talked about beforehand was I've always worked very closely with the protocol, but I've kind of tuned things like starting at 6 a.m. prevented that midnight, whatever it was, rush. And after a little while, that stopped anyway, which, as we all know, our symptoms change. So I started quite slowly, and I don't think I started ALA for about 3 months. That was pretty easy. I turned out unusually not to be thiol sensitive.
You're not thiol sensitive.
Thiol, no, no, I
You can
wasn't.
eat whatever you want pretty much, except
Yeah.
for those things that you react to.
So I started really slowly, and I did increments really slowly. But I think that
No,
some
that's
of the
wise.
some of my increments later were like, I would jump from 75 to 90, not 100 or whatever. And I did a couple of really long rounds. Like I did 10 rounds at 100 ALA, even though I felt quite good. It just felt, slow and steady. And then by the time I was doing 180 ALA and 27 DMSA, I started doing long rounds at about round 76. And by long rounds, I mean I started on 4 days instead of 3, and then I moved up to 5, and that was just a little bit too much. I'm a bit concerned about my adrenals.
Yeah.
So I actually do nearly 5 days. I don't, if I start at 6 a.m., I finish at 6 a.m. and on Tuesday, but I actually finish it. So I go from 6 a.m. Friday to 9 p.m. Tuesday, I think. Yeah, and I think that's been an important part for me. I know others sort of, I see in the group people have a hard time with some of it, but for me, the key has been routine and structure.
Well, yeah, that's
And
what,
get really organized, get yourself really organized. I always start at 6 a.m.
yeah, me
I
too.
go on the 3 hours. I put my eight pills for a day in to a bottle so that if I go, like I don't want to carry around a big box, so I just have a little bottle, and if it gets to like 10 past 3 and I go PM, for example, I go, did I take it? Didn't I take it? And I can quickly count and go, oh no,
Count
I took
them,
it.
yeah.
So that's, it's about putting in what works for you within what works for me and what works for anyone else listening within the protocol. Yeah, but still.
Did you notice that the dreaded dump phase at all?
Um, not not really as some people have described. I I've had symptoms that have changed
Yeah.
over time, and it's just generally getting clearer in my mental capacity. Not that I really struggled with that, but that's just I can just see this clearness. One of the reasons I finish, when I say I finish, because by about day 4, that's when I'm really feeling. I think some people describe it as leaden, but I walk up a hill and my legs feel like lead, and I go, right, this is my limit. Is the 5 days. I didn't have a massive jump, but I certainly went from not feeling anything in the first 3 or 4, maybe 6 months to more fatigue while I'm collating, and that can vary too. So a little nap in the afternoon while I'm collating is a bit of a non-negotiable, and it's not long. It's like I just need I need a 20-minute
It's
lie
interesting
down.
because most people that undertake this are really desperate and really, really sick. And it sounds like you weren't really that bad. It sounds like it was your friend that kind of got you interested and got you to do it.
I was quite aware of degenerative illnesses, and my father has Alzheimer's. and he
Yeah,
was the
he
welder.
wouldn't have.
So I've been really health conscious, from 15 years old, and I'm now nearly 60. So there was an awareness, but probably like a lot of people, my awareness of heavy metals was fairly light. Like we know that it's not good for us, but it's sort of this background
You don't
knowledge
really
rather
know how.
than really knowing.
Do
Yeah,
you notice symptoms that you can distinguish that are lead as opposed to mercury symptoms? Because you had both of those things.
yeah. The lead is that leaden feeling in my leg. That that feeling that I'm walking up the hill to go and feed my turkeys, and you just feel that leaden kind of dragging yourself up the
Hmm,
hill.
hmm.
Mercury more, and actually it stopped. It's a symptom I was having sometimes around the last day or two, with a little bit of word finding trouble, I
Yeah,
guess,
that's mercury. Yeah.
and that seems to have stopped lately. But like, I know we all had that, but it'd be, say, on the Tuesday, 5, 6, 7 times, just not being able to find a word, mentioning someone's name, and I can't remember. And it's not even like I can't remember. It's like I can't remember that I can't remember. I go, John, and then, 10 minutes later and the conversation's over and that name pops into my head. But that feels very Mercury.
Yeah, that is, it's hard to distinguish because you think maybe it's coming with age too, because it is a fact. I mean, I've read it, and I guess it's a fact that it takes longer to get stuff out of memory when you're older.
And I would probably say it was age, except for that happens very specifically on my last day of
Yeah.
training.
Yes, so that's a sign, yeah.
Yeah. So I see it as a positive, like something's moving. So that's my story, really. And I guess encourage people to keep plugging away at it, and the reason I thought I would volunteer to share is we expected that I would have a really hard time,
Yeah.
and I haven't. And so I wanted to share that we can do this, and not everyone has. I'm really sad for the people that have harder times, but for me, it's not been that difficult. It's been really well supported, with core 4 and with.
I think that's nice for people to hear that because if you go into the Facebook group, it's sort of terrifying, but there's plenty of people who just do it and it's a straight shot forward. I guess you're one of those. Lucky you. Yeah.
Lucky with you. Yeah. Um, yeah. So that's probably what my message is. It's not always going to be as hard, and not even if you think it might be hard for you, just get started and take it really easy, as you're aware, taking it really slowly. It's not a rush. Just chip away at it, and when I have a day with symptoms like the word finding and a little bit of weird cognitive stuff, I just go, oh yeah, that's a good sign. Just
It
keep
means that
going.
something's happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, well, our advice is to find a dose to chelate at and adequate support so you can continue with your normal life, even though you're doing this as a background activity, because it takes a while. So you have to find a level to do it at that you can tolerate and you can, you know, because if you go too high, people want to get all, heroic. Yeah, this isn't something you want to be heroic with. You just want to plod away in a sort of a boring and tedious fashion at it.
Yeah, and it's tedious. I think that's what the practitioner describes it as. It's tedious.
Yeah, it's
You
tedious,
kind
yes.
of go, this is just going to be a part of my life for some years, and I'm just going to, get done.
Yeah. I guess when I just change the subject completely, like Andy used to say that you can when you're toxic yourself or you've been toxic, you can recognize another toxic person like immediately. Do you find that to be true?
I do, and I also find that people the other thing that Angie has said is they don't want to know. Like if I ever mention, and I rarely do, but they might see me taking a pill during, you know, because I'm really clear about that, and they'll say, oh, I don't think I have lead. You know, where do you think you got it from? And I'll name the things, and they'll say, oh, I don't think I've done that. And I think, well, I know you've renovated old houses, and you actually live under a flight path, right under a flight path. But they don't want to know. They don't want to know.
They don't want to know. They're not ready to, you have to be really ready to do it.
And you have to be, so they don't want to hear. They don't even want to accept that they might have heavy metal poisoning. Like, so I'm some rare thing who lived in the same environment and the same community, and I got poisoned and they didn't. And I go, okay, well, that's where you're at. It's a little bit odd. The symptoms are probably that I see in others, you know, is that mercury toxicity, this kind of reactive, that can be overly reactive. It can be cognitive stuff, and you know, you have a conversation with someone, and then a little bit later, they'll say something, and you'll go, "That's not what you said," you know, 5 minutes ago. Like there's this kind of weird cognitive thing that I see, and if you challenge that, not challenge, that's a bit rude. If you question it and go, "Wait a minute, a few minutes ago you said this," then they get really quite distressed about that, because I guess no one really wants to see their own. It's hard to see your own.
Do you think there's a lot of metal poisoning in Australia?
There is, yeah. A lot of old houses, lead paint was used well into. I live in Tasmania. Lead paint was used into the 80s. I mean, I think they started reducing the amount of lead in the 70s, but you know, probably nearly everyone. Then I think about things like my brother was a chewer and he chewed the cot that mum had renovated. You know, he was, as a small child, the toys were painted with lead, and
Yeah.
you know, children chew them, and I don't know what prices are like in Ho Chi Minh City in America for food, but little tins of tuna, which were perfect for lunch sizes, were $1 a tin, Australian $1. Really cheap. We all thought we were so healthy. Like I had an office, I had a team, you know, there's 10 of us in the team, and we all ate tuna for lunch every day.
Every day, yeah. I've certainly come across people who manage to get toxic with just cans of tuna fish.
Yeah.
It's funny because one of the things they say in the product that must not be named defense, they would say, well, it's got less mercury than a tuna fish sandwich, which is kind of a joke. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know, you know, a lot of people are. My other lesson in heavy metals was I had a rescue dog that was highly reactive, and we had a holistic vet, and she tested and chelated for heavy metals. And
A dog?
We watched his reactivity shift. Like she saw him being quite reactive and said, "That's a reactive brain." And we tested, and he was high in heavy metals. And when a different kind of chelating that we worked with a holistic vet, and it was after years and years of trying all sorts of things, all sorts of natural products and magnesium and different consultants, and it was actually the heavy metal that was finally heavy metal detoxing that was finally supporting him.
And how did it turn out for the dog?
Didn't get to see it because he had an accident and died.
Oh, well.
But we saw things get better for him. The good thing is we actually saw remarkable shifts in his reactivity.
I can't hear you very well.
Sorry, we saw remarkable shifts in his reactivity.
Okay, yeah. Well, I often remark that all the dogs in the States, well, in Vermont, have anxiety disorder. I see that a lot in the dogs.
Yeah, well, some of the kibble foods are really high in heavy metals. This dog
Mm.
had been through 2 or 3 rescues. So every time they go through a rescue, they've had, you know, the thing in the arm or the thing in the leg.
Yeah, they
You know,
over-vaccinate them. They really do. Yeah.
you know, probably like a lot of people now, you know. had a lot of hope.
A lot of people too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add to this, to what we're saying? Okay.
No, just hope and keep plugging away, and we'll get there. I don't know how many years I've got ahead of me. um, it's just become a part of my routine now, and
That's the way to do it. It's just a part of
yeah,
your routine. Yes.
yeah, it's just every second Friday. So when I do the longer rounds, I should say, which I've been doing for about 20 or 30 rounds, I do it every second weekend, so I have a much longer break. Um, and the other thing that I shifted is for the first 60 or 70 rounds, I was every week, even over Christmas. And shifting to the longer rounds has been really good for me because I don't feel like I'm always collating. I feel like, I get a little bit more space and
More sleep. Yeah.
more sleep. If I do the calculations, I go, it's 4 nights instead of 6 nights for the same amount of collating. So that's worked for me. But again, I think it's also been said in the group, the longer rounds are for experienced collators.
Yeah. You have to approach them cautiously. Yes.
Yes, and I increased a little bit. Like I increased from 72. I always did 72-hour rounds. I increased from 72 to another 8 hours, and then the next week.
Yeah.
And pulled back a little bit. And I think that's my message is. So I have really, just because of my other practices, I have very good body awareness. So I could feel that doing 5 full days just was taking its toll, and so I guess that's the other thing is if you is know when to pull back a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think that your story is going to encourage, maybe it'll encourage some of those people who are scared to start to get going, and that would be a very good thing. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Glad to have been of help, and and good luck with good luck with your work. I think you're doing amazing stuff. So thank you.
Thank you.